Hi, hello, my dear students. This is K.V. Ramana, lecturer of Zoology. Today we are going to continue the episode 7. In this lecture, we are going to talk about the continuity part of bronchi and bronchiole tree. Right? In the last previous lecture, we have completed about up to the trachea. Right? Now we are going to explain about there is a bronchiole tree, there is a bronchi tree and bronchiole tree, right? In this, how the air is passing from the place to place and what is the difference between the part of the bronchi and the part of the bronchioles, right? Let me explain once again how the passage of air reaches to the bronchi. While inhalation, the air enters into the nasal cavity through the external nostrils. Nasal cavity opens into the pharynx through the internal nostrils. Pharynx is a common passage for the food pipe and wind pipe, or food and wind or air. Then the pharynx opens into the larynx through the glottis. The larynx opens into the long tube-like structure which is extended from the larynx to our mid-thoracic region of the chest cavity, and trachea divides into two branches in the place of fifth thoracic vertebrae, right? In the place of fifth thoracic vertebrae, the trachea is divided into two branches. One is a right primary bronchus, second one is left primary bronchus, right? So what are the features in the bronchi? Generally, bronchi is a plural, bronchus is a singular. If you see the anatomical structure of the bronchus and their function, right? The primary bronchi, that is either right primary bronchi or left primary bronchi, both are lined by the pseudo-stratified columnar ciliated epithelium with C-shaped rings. That means the C-shaped rings of cartilage also present, right, which is a hyaline cartilage only. Next, secondary bronchi also made up of are lined by the pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium, but the shape of the C will be changes which look like a plates. That means whenever you come to the secondary bronchi, the C-shaped become a flat, that's it is a plates of cartilage is present. It's also made up of hyaline cartilage only. Next, tertiary bronchi is made up of are lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium with plates of cartilage. That means up to here, this is a primary bronchi, this is secondary bronchi, this is a tertiary bronchi. Primary, secondary, tertiary, both the three are useful for conduction of the air. Air will be moved from the place to place, but the structural difference is up to primary bronchi it is made up of C-shaped cartilage, and secondary and tertiary bronchi is made up of plates of cartilage. That means the cartilage shape will be changed, look like a plate, right? But it is made up of a hyaline cartilage. Come to the bronchiole. It is a long tree of bronchiole. It starts with the primary bronchiole, ends with the terminal bronchiole, right? In this there are many branches are there. These are we have given as a large bronchioles, smaller bronchioles and terminal bronchioles. As our textbook they have given what is that? Large bronchioles are called primary bronchioles, smaller bronchioles are called secondary and tertiary bronchioles, and last one is the terminal bronchiole. That is our textbook, but as per other book, the large bronchioles are nothing but primary bronchioles. The primary bronchioles are lined by ciliated simple columnar epithelium. It is lined by the ciliated simple columnar epithelium. Here presence of cilia and simple columnar, that is nothing but here single layer of cells are present which is a column shape, and very important thing is instead of cartilage here smooth muscles are present. Very important, smooth muscles are present. And second one, smaller bronchioles, it is lined by ciliated simple columnar epithelium. Here also more number of smooth muscles are present. Come to the terminal bronchioles. Terminal bronchioles, which is the terminal part of the bronchiole part or bronchiole tree, which is made up of simple cuboidal epithelium and without cilia. That's it is called non-ciliated simple columnar epithelium with more number of smooth muscles. Okay, now the number of smooth muscles are increasing from the large bronchiole to small bronchiole to terminal bronchiole. Okay, now large bronchiole it is negligible, in the small bronchiole more than the larger bronchiole, in the terminal bronchiole the smooth muscles are more than the smaller bronchiole. I think you have understood. Next, respiratory bronchiole. If you see the respiratory bronchiole, I drawn with a black sketch, okay, now, which is made up of simple cuboidal to simple squamous. That means initially this respiratory bronchiole is made up of what is that? Simple cuboidal epithelium. Then when it is reaches to the alveolar duct, before itself what happens? No, it is made up of simple squamous epithelium. From alveolar duct and alveolar sac and alveoli, these all are made up of simple squamous epithelium. Simple squamous epithelium. Now, what is the function of bronchi, bronchioles and respiratory bronchioles, alveolar duct and alveoli? Right? Bronchi or bronchus helps to conduction of air. That's the first one. Okay, which helps to allow the air from the trachea to respective part of the respiratory passage. Okay, next here important thing is pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Due to presence of cilia, there is a cleaning process takes place. That means sweeping of dust particle which contain the inhaled air. Okay, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi and tertiary bronchi, three are useful for what is that? Cleaning the air because of presence of the cilia. At the same time, due to presence of these rings of cartilage which helps to prevent the collapse. Next, bronchioles. These bronchioles are also lined by ciliated. That means it is useful for the conduction of air and cleaning of the air, as well as here due to lack of cartilage, here some what we can say flexibility will be present due to presence of the smooth muscles. So here presence of smooth muscles are the characteristic of large bronchioles and small bronchioles and terminal bronchioles. Large bronchioles are nothing but primary bronchioles, smaller bronchioles are nothing but secondary and tertiary bronchioles, terminal bronchioles are the last bronchioles, right? Okay, now these two, that is the large bronchioles and smaller bronchiole, have the cilia. There is a large bronchioles and smaller bronchioles have a cilia, but the terminal bronchioles which do not have the cilia, which is lined by simply columnar epithelium. And come to the respiratory bronchiole. Respiratory bronchiole is meant for conduction of air and exchange of air also will be takes place, because in the respiratory bronchiole there is no smooth muscles. Due to that, what happens? No, there is a chance of exchange of gases takes place from the respiratory bronchiole to up to alveoli. That's why what are the parts before the respiratory bronchiole? These all are come under the conductive zone of the respiratory tract. Okay, now what are the parts starts from the respiratory bronchiole ends with the alveoli? These all are come under the respiratory or exchange zone of the respiratory tract. Okay, why? Because this respiratory bronchiole, alveolar bracts and alveoli, these all are made up of simple squamous epithelium due to single layer of cells. Okay, now due to that what happens? No, there is a more exchange of gases takes place, right? When you are going to the deeper of the lungs, okay, now here respiratory bronchiole form the alveolar duct form the alveolar sac. Alveolar sacs contain the alveolus. Singular is the alveolus, plural is the alveoli, where the exchange of gases takes place. But here I want to say that what is the use of this alveolar ducts and alveoli? Alveolar ducts secrete a surfactant. Then alveolar cells are called pneumocytes. Type 1 pneumocyte, type 2 pneumocytes. Type 1 pneumocytes are useful for exchange of gases, but type 2 pneumocytes helps to secrete a surfactant is called lecithin. A surfactant is called lecithin. Lecithin is a surfactant which trends to reduce the surface tension of liquid in which is dissolved, right? Okay, now this lecithin helps to reduce the surface tension. That means these alveoli always should be open, more surface area will be available. If the more surface area is available and more exchange of gases takes place. So this is about the trachea divided into what is that, bronchi at the place of fifth thoracic vertebrae, right? It's a very important. In the fifth thoracic vertebrae, the trachea divided into bronchi. Now this is the right primary bronchi, this is the left primary bronchi from the secondary bronchi from the tertiary bronchi. These three togetherly called bronchus. Now these bronchus again redivides into many branches are called bronchioles. Each bronchioles are divided into different types. One is a primary bronchiole, those are larger bronchioles. One is a secondary and tertiary bronchioles are smaller bronchioles. And last one is terminal bronchioles. Again, respiratory zone or exchange zone starts with the respiratory bronchiole. Respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct and alveoli, three are involved in the exchange of gases. And from the external nostrils to till terminal bronchiole, from the external nostrils to till the terminal bronchiole, these all parts are come under the conductive zone of the respiratory tract. Okay, na? From the respiratory bronchiole to alveoli, this part of the respiratory system is called exchange zone of the respiratory system. So total respiratory system is divided into, based on the function, there are two important zones. One is a conductive zone, one is a respiratory zone. Conductive zone starts from the external nostrils and ends with the terminal bronchiole. Starts with the external nostrils. External nostrils are opens into nasal cavity. Nasal cavity opens into the internal nostrils. Internal nostrils are opens into pharynx. Pharynx opens into larynx. Larynx opens into trachea. Now trachea opens into bronchi. Bronchi opens into bronchioles. Bronchioles are ends with the terminal bronchiole, right? So from the external nostrils to terminal bronchiole, these three parts are togetherly called conducting zone of the respiratory system, because here there is no exchange of gases, because the lining of these tubes are highly thicker, it does not allow the gases, right? From the respiratory bronchiole to alveoli, here the lining is very thin, which is made up of a simple squamous epithelium. So these three, that is nothing but respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct, alveolar sacs and alveoli, considered as a exchange zone of the respiratory system. Okay, now we are going to explain about a specific part which is located posterior to the bronchi. That means where the last hyaline cartilage will be stopped in the trachea, and the point where the trachea divides into primary bronchi, there a particular structure is present. At the point of where the trachea divides into the right and left primary bronchi, an inverted ridge, a small ridge is present in the inverted form. This ridge is called carina. What is the use of this carina, right? This carina made up of a mucous membrane, right? That means the mucous membrane of the carina is one of the most sensitive area of the entire larynx and trachea for the triggering of cough reflex. Reflex is nothing but a sudden, automatic, spontaneous actions are called reflex actions. Sometimes some dust may enter into the respiratory system. That is, dust will be identified by the carina. By that they have to trigger a cough reflex, which is prevent the entry of dust into the lungs, right? This carina play a very important role in to cough reflex. That means to make it cough ourselves without knowing it. That's why it is a most sensitive area compared with the larynx and trachea. In the larynx and the trachea, it is a more sensitive area. It is for the cough reflex. I hope you understand, right? Basically, trachea divides into the bronchi. the place where trachea divides into right primary bronchus and left primary bronchus, there a particular internal ridge is present. That internal ridge is called carina. Right? What is the use of this carina? Carina covered by a sensitive mucous membrane which shows the sensitive towards the cough reflex. That means this part of respiratory system or respiratory tract is a highly sensitive compared with the larynx and trachea. Okay, it to produce the or it to trigger the cough reflexes on enter into the lungs. Some dust may try to enter into in the lungs. At that time, this carina helps to prevent the entry of dust particles. And one more thing I want to explain here, very important thing regarding goblet cells. You know, goblet cells secrete mucus. Goblet cells secrete mucus. It is present from the nasal cavity to up to large bronchioles. That means it is present in the nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, lining of trachea, bronchi, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, and large bronchioles. Up to the large bronchioles, the goblet cell present. These goblet cells are absent in smaller bronchioles and terminal bronchioles. Yes. And remaining will be made up of simple squamous epithelium, right? I hope you understand. And we conclude the regarding bronchi and bronchial tree, right? Trachea form a branching like network. A branching like network, if you invert it into a long tree, okay, now, if it is inverted into the long tree, that's why this tree of network of respiratory tract is called, okay, now, bronchiole tree. It is a bronchiole tree. Why it is a bronchiole tree? Because trachea form the branching of bronchus or bronchioles, bronchi from the bronchioles, bronchiole from the terminal bronchiole. Like that, what happens? No, there is a branching type network will be present. If you invert it, it looks like a tree. That's it is called bronchiole tree. And finally, we have to conclude by looking this picture. We can understand there are two important zones present in the respiratory system. One is conducting zone. Second one is a respiratory zone. Conducting zone starts with the external nostrils, ends with the terminal bronchiole. This conductive zone helps in cleanness, that is a filtration of the air. Second one is sterilization, make the microbless. And third one is humidification. Humidification is nothing but by adding the moist to the hot air to become a cool. Okay, now that will be takes place in the mostly in the nasal passage or nasal cavity. And here important thing is always they have to collect the dust particle and sweeping, everything will be takes place in the respiratory system. So these functions will be occur in the conductive zone of the respiratory system. This conductive zone of respiratory system does not involved in the process of exchange of gases. So the exchange of gases is initiated by what is that? Respiratory bronchiole, alveolar ducts, alveolar sacs and alveoli. These four parts of the respiratory system considered as exchange zone of respiratory system. It is a exchange zone of the respiratory system. Why it is a exchange zone of respiratory system? Because it is lined by a single layer of cells, that is a simple squamous epithelial cells, so which is facilitate for the exchange of gases. Okay, let me see the next part of respiratory system, the next episode regarding the human respiratory organs. What are the main and chief respiratory organs in the human beings about the lungs? Thank you.